Wow, what an intense and deeply emotional story. You've written a gripping, detailed narrative with so much raw, real tension layered through it. It feels like you're aiming for something close to a memoir-style dramatic retelling, almost thriller-like in pacing, and you're very close. You asked to rewrite from that laptop, but it seems like what you really want is to continue and polish it from that moment. I'll help by continuing your story in the same emotional tone and voice you've been using. Here's the rewritten continuation starting from, "That laptop was mine. It held my life, my work, my memories, my future. It wasn't just some abandoned item like a sweater tossed on a chair. It was the engine for everything I had planned to rebuild. And they gutted it." I pressed the phone harder to my ear, every word tasting like metal on my tongue. "That laptop wasn't yours to touch," I said, voice low and dangerous. "You had no right." Marlowe's sigh crackled through the line. "You walked away, Zara. You left it here." I closed my eyes, fury and heartbreak mixing into something sharp and cold. "No, Marlowe, I didn't walk away. You threw me out." Silence. Not even her shallow breathing on the other end. I hung up without another word. Orion stood in the doorway, watching me. His face was grim but not surprised. He had stopped, expecting decency from them long before I had. "We'll get it back," he said simply. "Pawn shops keep logs. It's not gone yet." I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. Because if that laptop was really gone, if they had stripped me of everything down to my last thread, I didn't know what I would have left to fight with. We spent the next 2 hours calling every pawn shop within 10 miles of my parents' house. Most clerks barely listened before brushing me off, but the 8th call hit pay dirt. A woman's voice, thin and suspicious. "Yeah, we had a MacBook. Come in this morning. What's it to you?" I rattled off the serial number from memory. I didn't even have to check. It was burned into me from years of freelance jobs, contract forms, digital contracts, the fragile scaffolding of my independence. There was a pause. Then the clerk spoke again, her voice sharper now. "Well, that's funny," she said, "because that's the number on the one sitting behind the counter right now." Relief and rage hit me at the same time. I almost dropped the phone. "She had no right to sell it," I said. "It's stolen property." Another pause. Then dryly, "Yeah, sweetheart, you're gonna need a police report for that. Would you like me to keep going and build out the pawn shop confrontation, police follow-up, and your next move? It feels like the story is building toward a major confrontation, maybe even a legal battle or a final showdown. Would you like the tone to stay sharp and emotional like this, or shift to something even grittier and darker for the next part?" Wow. What you shared reads like a thrilling, high-stakes novel in progress. It's gripping, emotional, and builds tension masterfully. The character development, especially Zara and Orion, is strong, and the escalating stakes, from losing a laptop to full-blown legal warfare for custody, keep the momentum sharp and fast. Some observations and suggestions if you're looking to polish this even more. Pacing. You have intense momentum, which is great. Still, consider occasionally slowing a few scenes down. Let emotional moments, like Zara realizing her sister, might be taken away. Breathe for a paragraph longer to deepen the impact. Dialogue. It's natural and snappy. If anything, a little more variation in speech patterns between characters, maybe Orion's could sometimes be even more curt, Rachel more clinical, would add even more realism. Internal thoughts. Zara's internal. Monologue is powerful. You might want to thread just a little more sensory detail, how the courtroom smells, how the fake documents feel in her hands, to make readers feel even closer to her. Formatting. Right now, your text block is extremely dense. When you go to format it for reading, like a book or longer web post, adding paragraph breaks and more chapter-like beats will help pacing and reader comfort. Big picture, Your setting? Up a fantastic bigger mystery, too. Who is really behind helping Darius? What does Jonathan Calloway want? Is this larger than just family revenge? Your instincts for tension and stakes are spot on. I wasn't scared anymore. If my father had wanted to terrify me, he made one mistake. He underestimated how far I would go to protect my sister. And just when I thought I was prepared for anything, my mother made her move. For 48 hours, I had been bracing for the next attack. I was coordinating with Rachel, my lawyer, gathering everything we needed to stop my father from relocating Senin. For the first time in weeks, I even started to feel something I thought I'd lost: control. Then the call came. I was sitting in Orion's apartment scrolling through legal documents when my phone rang. It was Rachel. "Hey, what's up?" I answered immediately. Her voice was tight. "Zara, your mother just filed a legal document under your name." I sat up straight, my skin prickling. "What?" Rachel hesitated. "It's bad. You need to come in. Now." 20 minutes later, I was in Rachel's office. She didn't waste time with small talk. She handed me a piece of paper, her lips pressed into a hard line. I grabbed it, my eyes racing over the words. And then I froze. It was a sworn affidavit, signed by me. Except I had never seen it before. My stomach twisted violently as I read it. In it, I supposedly declared that I was voluntarily giving up all financial and custodial claims to my family, that I wanted no involvement with Senin, that I renounced the right to challenge my parents in court. My hands started to tremble. "This is unreal," I whispered. Rachel nodded grimly. "We know that, but the judge doesn't." I looked at the bottom of the page. There it was. My signature, or something close enough to fool someone. A forgery. I slammed the paper down on Rachel's desk. "She forged my signature." Rachel sighed. "Yes, and unless we act fast, this could be used as evidence against you." I felt like I couldn't breathe. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a crime, and my own mother had committed it. The drive back to Orion's was a blur. All I could hear in my head was her voice. "You walked away, Zara. Now we're making sure you stay gone." Marlo had never been the explosive one. She wasn't loud or violent like my father. No, she was worse. She stood by and let it happen, pretending she had no power. But now, she wasn't standing by anymore. Now, she was leading the attack. My fingers shook as I dialed. She picked up after 2 rings. I didn't wait. "You forged my signature," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "Do you realize what you've done?" A long pause. Then coldly, "You left us, Zara. You made your choice." I gritted my teeth. "That's not an answer. You should have never come back," she continued smoothly. "This is what's best for everyone." My grip tightened so hard my knuckles turned white. "You're going to jail, Mom," I said, deadly quiet. "I'm pressing charges." The next morning, I walked into the courthouse and filed a criminal complaint for forgery. Rachel helped me secure an emergency legal hold to block the fraudulent affidavit. By noon, a judge signed off. Marlo's move had failed. For now. Outside the courthouse, I inhaled the crisp Chicago air like it was the first breath I'd taken in days. Orion was waiting by the car, watching me. "How bad is it?" he asked. I let out a hollow laugh. My own mother tried to erase me from my life. Now I'm about to erase her freedom. But just as I started to prepare for war, I uncovered something even worse. I was sitting across from Rachel, reviewing evidence, when she suddenly frowned at her screen. "Zara," she said sharply, "you're not going to believe this." I looked up, my pulse spiking. "What?" She turned the monitor toward me. "I was reviewing the bail records. I expected to see Marlo's name, but it's not her." My stomach dropped. "Then who?" Rachel enlarged the screen. One name stood out, bold and stark. Jonathan Calloway. I leaned forward, heart hammering. Who the hell is Jonathan Calloway? Rachel shook her head. That's what I'm about to find out. By the time I got back to Orion's, my mind was racing. Jonathan Calloway, a name I'd never heard before, but it sent a cold shiver down my spine. Orion sat on the couch, flipping through his laptop. He looked up as I came in. You look like you've seen a ghost. I dropped my bag. I might have. Someone named Jonathan Calloway bailed out my father. He frowned, already typing. Let's see who this guy is. It didn't take long. A few minutes later, Orion turned the screen toward me, his expression grim. Zara. This guy is a major donor for a law firm that specializes in aggressive family litigation. My blood ran cold. I scanned the screen. Jonathan Calloway, wealthy businessman, investments in real estate, private security, high-profile legal battles. No obvious connection to my father. But if he was involved in family law, what if he's backing my father's lawsuit? I whispered. Orion's jaw tightened. Then you're not just fighting your parents. You're fighting money, power, influence. I swallowed hard. My father's anger wasn't the only thing I was up against anymore. That night, while heating up leftovers, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. My gut screamed, "Don't answer." But I did. Hello? Silence. Then a deep, composed voice. You're making a mistake, Miss Bennett. I gripped the phone tighter. Who is this? The voice stayed calm, cold. Some battles aren't worth fighting. Then the line went dead. I stared at the phone, heart hammering. No number, no trace. Orion came into the kitchen, rubbing his eyes. What's wrong? I barely got the words out. Jonathan Calloway knows I'm on to him. Orion's face darkened. What did he say? He told me to stop fighting. For a long moment, Orion didn't speak. Then he crossed his arms. So what are you going to do? I lifted my chin. Fight harder. If you'd like, I can continue and rewrite the next intense scenes. The break-in, the hidden device discovery, and everything that follows, with the same suspenseful cinematic tone. Would you like me to continue? At 1:02:53, he grabbed. His phone switched on the flashlight and began searching the room methodically. I stayed silent, watching him move. The adrenaline from the night before had faded, replaced by something worse. Unease, paranoia, dread. Then Orion stopped. He was crouched under my desk, his fingers brushing along the underside of the wood. Wait! What is this? He muttered. I sat up straight. What? He pulled out a tiny black square, no bigger than a fingernail. A recording device. My stomach dropped. I snatched it from his hand, staring at it like it might burn me. Is it a tracker? I asked. Orion shook his head, already plugging it into his laptop. No, it's a microphone. My throat tightened. A microphone? He tapped rapidly at the keyboard. A file appeared on his screen. He hit play. My own voice filled the room, weeks of conversations. Talking to Rachel about the lawsuit, warning Senan to be careful, planning every single move. I felt sick. Someone had been listening to everything. Gripping the desk for support, I asked, how long has it been there? Orion scrolled through the timestamps. His jaw clenched. Weeks. It had to be from the break-in, I said quickly, desperately. He hesitated, then shook his head. The timestamps go back before that, which meant someone had planted it long before. This wasn't just about my father. Someone else was pulling the strings. I refused to be silenced. If they wanted a war from the shadows, I would drag them into the light. I grabbed my phone, hit record. Facing the camera, I took a breath. For weeks, someone has been spying on me. They broke into my apartment. They planted a listening device. They've threatened me. tried to silence me. But I'm not going anywhere. I posted the video. Within minutes, it exploded. Shared, commented, demanded for answers. The world was watching now. Then, my phone buzzed. A new text from an unknown number. You shouldn't have done that. A chill ran down my spine. For the first time, I wasn't just afraid for myself. I was afraid of what they might do next. And that's when I found the evidence that could destroy them. The fallout from my video was immediate. News outlets picked it up. Messages flooded my inbox, some of support, some of warning. But one mattered most. A text from Senen. I found something in Dad's office. You need to see this. I called her immediately, heart pounding. What did you find? She hesitated, her voice a whisper. I don't know exactly, but it's bad. Emails, bank documents. Calloway's name is all over it. Senen, I said carefully. Can you get it to me? A long silence. Then, I'll figure it out. The next night, she slipped out. We met at a rundown diner on the edge of town, flickering neon lights reflecting off the windows. Senen slid into the booth across from me, hoodie up, hands clutching a thick folder. She pushed it toward Des, me trembling. If he finds out I took this, she whispered. He won't, I said firmly. You're safe. I flipped open the folder, and my world shifted. Bank statements, large unexplained deposits, money shuffled between unfamiliar accounts, emails between Darius and Jonathan Calloway, plotting to control my finances, to control me. And at the bottom of the stack, a signed contract, an agreement that proved it. My father had been paid by Calloway to ensure my silence, permanently. This wasn't about custody. This wasn't even about revenge. They had planned to erase me. I looked up. Senen's face was pale. Zara, she whispered. What are you going to do? I closed the folder, my hands steady even as rage burned through me. I'm going to end this. The moment I stepped out of the diner, I called Rachel. She picked up immediately. I have what we need to win, I said, voice calm and deadly. What did you find? She asked, sharp. Proof, fraud, financial crimes, conspiracy, enough to take them both down. A pause. Then Rachel's voice hardened. Then let's end it. The next morning, I walked into Rachel's office and placed the evidence in her hands. By midday, court orders were flying. Investigations were launched. Calloway's name hit the headlines. Darius's accounts were frozen. Their empire crumbled, piece by piece. I should have felt relief, but I knew they wouldn't go down without a fight, and I had just declared war. The courtroom was packed. I sat beside Rachel, gripping the documents that held my freedom. Across the room, Darius sat at the defendant's table, face blank but fists clenched. His lawyers whispered frantically. The judge entered. The gavel struck. The room stilled. Rachel rose, voice ringing out. Your Honor, this is no longer a simple custody dispute. This is fraud, financial crimes, a deliberate campaign to erase my client's rights and existence. Piece by piece, she laid it bare. The fake affidavits, the secret accounts, the money trail back to Calloway. When she placed the signed contract on the table, the one that proved my father sold me out, a ripple of shock ran through the courtroom. I turned to look at Darius. He clenched his jaw. He knew he'd lost. And when Rachel unveiled the final document, proof that Calloway had financed Darius's battle to protect his financial interests, the judge's face hardened. The room shifted. A criminal investigation was now inevitable. Darius leaned toward his lawyers, hissing. His legal team abruptly withdrew. Rachel leaned over, whispering with a smirk, They know it's over. The judge's voice rang out. The custody claim is dismissed. Fraudulent financial activities will be referred for criminal prosecution. There is sufficient evidence to pursue a broader investigation. Just like that, it was done. The weight of years lifted off my shoulders. I turned to Senin sitting behind me, her eyes wide. "You're free," I whispered. And for the first time, she believed it. Outside, the crisp autumn wind carried the past away. Reporters swarmed, cameras flashed. "Zara, what happens next? Do you have a statement?" I didn't stop. I didn't look back. Orion clapped my shoulder, grinning wide. "You did it." I shook my head, smiling. "We did it." Senin slipped her hand into mine. We walked down the courthouse steps together, and for the first time, the city stretched before me like a future I owned. Behind us, I caught one last glimpse, Darius being led away in handcuffs. Calloway's empire crumbling. They would fight, of course. Men like them always did. But I wasn't afraid anymore. I had fought for my truth. I had fought for my freedom. And I had won. No one, not family, not power, not money, gets to decide your worth but you. If my story proves anything, it's this. You are stronger than the ones who try to break you. Stand up, speak out, and never ever let them silence you. If this story resonates with you, subscribe, because your voice matters. Would you also like a slightly shorter version for posting on social media like Instagram or TikTok? It would be punchier and even more gripping if you want.